nevertheless, I was asked to come and share some of my experiences from my journey, as well as some of the ideas from my book, Nobody, which is on sale out there. Y'all can buy the book. I don't care so much about selling y'all stuff. I don't care so much about making y'all watch shows or buy books. I want to connect with you all so that you all can be part of our struggle to leave the world better than we found it.
That's right. That's it.
And there's a war. A war going on to kill us, to destroy us, to marginalize us, to erase us from the social contract, to prevent us from living lives of purpose, lives of love, lives of justice. And it's our job to commit to fighting in this war as allies for truth and justice, or to do nothing. And when we do nothing, we become agents for the enemy. So when people ask me to come and talk, especially black folk with fancy degrees and nice clothes and stuff like that, they often want me to come as a kind of model or exemplar of what is possible. They say, this dude got a job, he got a couple jobs, he got some degrees, you know, and maybe he can share with young people, particularly young men, what he did so they can do what he does so that they can be all right. And we want our babies to be all right. I'm with you. But for me, the journey of success, the journey that got me where I am, doesn't begin with a narrative of victory. It doesn't begin with a narrative of success. My story doesn't start on CNN with Don Lemon, thank God. It doesn't start. It doesn't start anywhere close to there, though. The journey for me doesn't begin in New York or LA or Atlanta. It begins in North Philly. And it doesn't begin in the classroom, it begins on the basketball court. All right? It doesn't begin with success, it begins with failure. I grew up like everybody else. You know, I grew up in the hood, and I grew up wanting to do all kinds of stuff. I had dreams, I had goals, I had visions, I had talents, but my biggest dream was a hoop dream. That's all I did was play basketball. Middle school, high school, I walked around with a basketball. Class, I had a basketball. Basketball season, I got C's and B's. Season was over, I got D's and F's. I got just enough to play. I went to gym when I was supposed to be in physics. I went to summer school for physics. My mind was centered around basketball, and I was a decent player, and I wanted to keep playing basketball. I loved basketball, it was in my heart. It was time to go to college, and my parents said, you gotta make a choice. And I had some offers to play in some schools, and they said, well, you can't take a basketball scholarship because we feel that you are too committed to basketball and you won't worry about your academics. We're not letting you take a basketball scholarship. You can go to college, we even gonna pay for college, but you ain't taking no basketball scholarship. And my heart was broken because I saw myself and my primary identity as that of an athlete. I saw my primary goal and dream as that of playing basketball. I didn't have any grand aspirations to play in the NBA. I knew I wasn't quite that good, but I knew that I could play somewhere. I knew I could do something, and that's where my heart was. And so I wanted to play basketball. They wouldn't let me, so I ended up going to Morehouse College. My brother had attended Morehouse, so they said that's a good school. He graduated, it worked out for him. You should go to Morehouse. And so I arrived in Atlanta in the summer of 1996. Somebody say, Danny. I got the nerve to have a Morehouse sweatshirt on. Wow. There's the love. That wasn't that long ago. I wasn't there with Herman and Dr. King. I wasn't. Man. That's the first time that ever happened before. I guess I'm an elder now.
It's all right, brother.
It's all right. I arrived at Morehouse College, though, trying to figure out my way, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. The first day of school, I realized that they had basketball tryouts. Like any good teenager, I said, my parents said I couldn't take a basketball scholarship. They didn't say nothing about playing basketball. So I went to tryouts, about 500 players, tryouts. Ain't but 2,000 people or more, 500 things. Everybody think they can play basketball. 500 people show up, I show up. Next day they cut half of us. 250 people come. Third day it's down to 50. Fourth day it's down to 2. We both make the team. I don't even get that one. Made the team. It was fine. You know, we made the team. That's not like a play, man. So we make the team and practice begins, and it's like a job now. This is every day, and it's intense, and it's a lot more work than I understood. There's a lot of weightlifting and running and stuff that, you know, I didn't fully anticipate. But we're practicing and we're going at it. You know, I'm doing my thing. I've improved. I'm working hard, and basketball was going well, except me and the coach didn't get along. We had, I mean, it happens. We had some fundamental differences. We had some worldview differences. We had some basketball differences. For example, I thought I was good. He did. So that affected my playing time and my journey with the team. It wasn't like the movies. No. And by the end of the season, I had decided I wasn't going to play anymore. And so I come back, my grades were fine. They weren't great, but they were fine. But basketball was over for me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. So the summer went by, and I came back in the fall, and I went to the first day of class, and I sat in the intro to psychology, and after about 10 minutes, I said, you know what, this ain't for me. I said, without basketball here, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know why I'm in school. My identity as an athlete was gone, and so my identity as a student was gone, and I was scrambling trying to figure out what to do with my life. So I got up, and I walked out, and I went to the registrar's office and the bursar's office, and I withdrew from school. And this is old school. You're talking about old school. This is, if you went to Marsh, you understand how old school this is. Back then, the line was short. And they said to me, well, are you sure you want to do this? I said, yeah. And they said, well, then, you're out, you're withdrawing. They said, well, we'll even give you your check back today. They said, you know, if you withdraw, because the first day, you get your refund today. So I said, cool. Now, at this point, some of you may be thinking, well, since your parents paid for college, this $5,000 check should go to them. It's a reasonable argument. So I took the check. Look, I was 18. I was 18 at the time. And they said, we can mail it to Philly and you can take it. I'm in Atlanta, I just dropped out. I didn't have any money. The meal plan wasn't gonna work in like 12 hours. I said, I'll take it. But I had a plan, I had a vision. I wasn't just trying to go out in the world and do nothing. That wasn't my point. I knew that I needed to do something now that I had dropped out of school. I needed a vision, I needed a plan, I needed a career. So I thought about doing illegal stuff. And I did some illegal stuff, but at the time my brother had spent most of my adult life in jail for selling drugs, and cousins in prison for drugs, friends locked up. People in my life just weren't good at not getting caught. So I said, I should probably do something different. So I said, I need a legal hustle. And I was thinking about the legal hustle, but I was also thinking about other stuff you think about when you're 18. I was like, well, if I'm gonna have I need something that's sustainable and something that works. So I decided that I would sell incense. This is a true story, I swear to God.
All right, come on with it. You got our interest.
I got a lot of opinions. So I took $1,000, which is about 100,000 incense. And I went to Western Atlanta and I bought me as much, I got all the frankincense and myrrh and sandalwood, knock champa. I got everything you want. It was like a hotel paradise. So I got my incense and I had $4,000 left. And I said, well, now that I'm an entrepreneur, I need a whip. I need a car. So I took the bus up to the buy here, pay here line. I don't know if y'all know, they don't really do that anymore, but for those of you who said damn to me going to school, a buy here, pay here line is kind of like where you go there and it's not, they don't loan you the car from like an agency or a bank. They just kind of handle it right there for you. So every week you go back to the lot and you pay them on the car that you went. Guys, for people who have bad credit, people who have money, or people who don't got no damn sense, right? So I was all three. So I went to the lot. I gave them my $4,000. And I said, give me something hot. So now this is the fall of '97 now, right? This is September '97. So they brought me a 1994 Geo Metro. Now some of y'all don't even know what a Geo Metro is, because they ain't last that long. They wasn't what was hot in the streets, right? But it was only 3 years old. Look, it was fall of '97, the car was a '94, that's a good look. It was a nice, now the Geo Metro's only about this big. And I thought the car had 30,000 miles on it. I'm like, 3 years, 30,000 miles, that's a good look. The car actually had 130,000 miles. But the odometer had turned over past 100, they weren't meant to go past 100,000 miles. So I'm thinking I got me a $30,000, and they ain't bothered to tell me nothing different. So I said, give me that, I got $4,000, give me that Geo Metro. So the guy, he brought it over, set it down. And now I'm on 85. I'm good. I got a car in the front, I got the incense in the back. And I am living life. 18 years old. And life was good. I was set up in Lenox Mall in Atlanta. If y'all know Lenox, that's like the fancy mall. That's where people who got money go. And I would stand right in front of the mall, right in front of the train station, which is across the street from the mall. And I would sell incense. I'd sell some other stuff, some bootleg videotapes, some movies. Other stuff to supplement my income. I diversified my portfolio. But that's when things started to turn, because the world isn't always fair. Parents will turn on you. No, I'm saying, parents get real petty when you keep their $5,000. Suddenly they didn't want to pay my rent. And the landlord, just as petty. After like 2 months of not paying the rent, they locked the door and put all my stuff out. So now I'm not living in Lenox Forest anymore. I'm not paying rent somewhere. And I don't have any resources. I'm selling incense in front of the mall and I'm sleeping inside the Geo Metro. Every single night. And 1 month turned to 2. And there were times where I had to choose between food and more incense and paying the car note, which was every week. And if you're only making $100 a week or $150 a week, and the car is $150 a week, and food you gotta eat every day, now you gotta make choices. So some weeks I would choose the car, some weeks I would choose the food, some weeks I would choose the incense. But I always chose the incense mostly because I had to keep generating money. And so one day I went into Houston's on Lenox Road and to grab a sandwich. And when I turned around, the guy from the buy here, pay here lot was towing my Metro away. With all the incense in it. So now I'm alone. Now I'm by myself and I don't have anything. So now I'm not selling incense on the train station floor. I'm sleeping on the train station floor. And I slept there for a day, and then a day turned into a week, and a week turned into a month. And I remember one night, because it was cold now. Atlanta, people think Atlanta's cold. LA is cold if you're outside. Everything is cold if you ain't got no inside. So we'd be huddled up in Lenox Mall train station, and we'd be laying there on the floor. It'd be me and a couple other brothers. One brother I remember in particular. He was a Vietnam War veteran, and he'd been laying out there for a while. I used to see him while I was still out there doing good when I still had a car and a place. One night I was asleep and I felt something hitting me. And it kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. It was nudging me in my ribs, it was elbowing me, and I was concerned, I was worried because it hurt, but at the same time I was ignoring it because that often happened when you lay on the train station floor. You'd be surprised how many people throw things at you, how many people mock you, how many people spit on you, how many people disrespect you. That idea of nobodyness extends to a whole range of people who are marked as unworthy of our investment, unworthy of our respect, unworthy of our protection. And so I laid out there unsafe, unprotected, and so it didn't necessarily disturb me too much when I felt the thing hit me in my wrist. But after like 5 minutes, I finally looked up because I was tired of the pain, and I looked to my left, and it was the brother who was on the train station floor as well, the Vietnam War veteran. He was laying there too, and he said, "Wake up." I said, "Why?" He said, "Wake up." I said, "Why?" He said, "Wake up." I said, "What?" He said, "You don't belong here." I said, "What do you mean? You got someplace else?" I'm open to ideas. He said, "No, that's not what I mean." He said, "You don't belong here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You are living a life you don't have to live." He said, as crazy as it sounds, he said, "I have to be here." I don't buy that, but he said, "I have to be here." He said, "You don't." I said, "I don't know what to do." It's at this moment that I got my first real life lesson. It's that conversation, that interaction, that produces any success that I've had since. It's that moment that I want to draw from just for a couple of minutes with y'all. I know y'all gotta go, but he said, "You don't belong here." He said, "You living a life you ain't got to live." I said, "What life am I supposed to live?" He said, "Your life." I said, "What is my life?" He said, "Be yourself." I said, "Well, I'm trying." I said, "I've already dropped out of school." He said, "Why'd you drop out of school?" I said, "Because it wasn't for me." He said, "Well, who'd you talk to before you left?" I said, "Nobody." He said, "That's the first problem. You ain't asked nobody because you ain't want nobody to answer." Young brothers and sisters, the technological moment we're in allows you to make rash decisions. The human instinct allows us to make impulsive decisions. But if I can give you any advice today, I would start by saying, always talk to somebody.
That's right.
Always seek wise counsel. Always take a second before making a wrong decision. If I had walked out of that classroom and went to my guidance counselor, went to a professor, went to a friend, talked to somebody who I trusted, called home, somebody would say, give it another day. And sometimes just giving something another day leads to another week, leads to another month that gets you over it.
That's right. That's right.
If you go to bed, you understand sometimes all you got is the next day. But I didn't do that. I went straight to the office and left. Sometimes the impulsive decision can make your whole life different. Think about how different Meek Mill's life would be if he hadn't just sent that one tweet. Think about how entirely different his life would be had those Twitter fingers not been animated. Nikki's learned that lesson. She's like, I ain't writing nothing. You just gonna have to, you can't make me rap. I post 75 Instagram, I ain't rapping nothing. Think about all the times you sent that text that you wish you could get back. How many arguments have you had with somebody where you wish you had an unsend button? That email you sent to everybody that you probably should have just sent to yourself. But part of what it means to develop leadership, part of what it means to become a leader, part of what it means to become a principled engager of justice is to be patient and disciplined and take a moment, but also to seek wise counsel. Sometimes wise counsel is a professor. Sometimes wise counsel is your grandmama. Sometimes your wise counsel is an imam or a deaconess in the church. Sometimes we have become so dressed up and fancy that we think the only people with wisdom are people with PhDs and MAs and MSs and BAs. And all the truth is, all of us have wisdom. All of us have something to offer. If you're going to be a leader, you need to recognize the genius in all of us. And grown folk, you need to recognize the genius in these babies.
Right.
We can't presume that genius comes at 18 or genius comes at 25. We can't assume that genius comes in a different color or a different body or a different gender or a different sexual orientation. Genius comes everywhere. We got acres of diamonds all around us. We just got to mine for them. So I said, I didn't ask anybody, I just left. He said, what'd you leave for? I said, it just wasn't me. School just wasn't me. He said, what is you? I said, I don't know. He said, who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? I said, I don't know who I am. Who am I? He said, fool, I can't tell you. But the challenge of youth and adulthood is figuring out who we are.
Yes.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was given 6 words: accept your own and be yourself. What does it mean to accept one's own? What does it mean to be oneself in a world that's constantly telling you what you are, even though you're not that thing? You walk into the blackest neighborhood, you go up Richmond. then go to Mississippi. Then go to New Orleans. Then go to North Philly. Then go to East New York or Brooklyn. Go to the blackest neighborhood in America. Go to the drugstore and buy a flesh-colored Band-Aid. It's gonna be peach. Because the world is telling you something. The world is telling you that the normal human flesh is peach. Yours ain't peach. That tells you from the moment you are a baby that you got the wrong skin. And you walk into the store and the mannequin is a size 0. Now, ain't nothing wrong with being a size 0 if you happen to be a size 0. But if you're not a size 0, but every mannequin, every billboard, every sign, every anchor, every model, every person in the public vision looks like that, then you walk around thinking you got the wrong hips and the wrong lips and the wrong nose and the wrong body. You walk around thinking you're broken. The world is telling you to be something that you're not. conference. Men, the world is always telling men what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Women too. I'm not making an exception. I'm simply saying since we're at a men's conference, I want to challenge the brothers here for a minute to push back against ideas of who and what men are supposed to be, who and what masculinity is supposed to look like. The world is telling you that to be a man, you got to be hard all the time. Men can't be emotional. Ain't nobody more emotional than men. I got homies walking around punching walls, screaming. They get arguing with their girl, coming out punching walls, kicking stuff, screaming. She makes me so mad. Why? She's so damn emotional. But for men, we are taught that anger is our only legible emotion. That there's no space to say I'm sad or I'm hurt. Or I'm feeling insecure, or you hurt my feelings, or I miss you, or I love you. There's no space for that. The only space is to articulate our identities through anger and through hypersexuality. So part of what we have to do as men is reimagine masculinity, maybe even destroy this conception of masculinity, such that we can imagine ourselves outside the boundaries of hypersexuality and anger and violence and compulsory heterosexuality. Some of y'all ain't straight, and that's cool. We have to understand a different self. Be yourself. Because until we allow us to be us and be ourselves, we foreclose on a whole range of intellectual possibilities. We got a whole bunch of little boys that can be artists and dancers and painters who are taught from first grade that ain't what boys do. Boys don't journal, boys don't write diaries, that's what girls do. Boys don't play with dolls. Yes, they do. All y'all grew up with action figures. That's what y'all do. Boys take dolls and call them action figures. He-Man and Barbie made on the same assembly line, same plastic, same body parts, same movement, just one of the action figures. We have to reimagine what manhood is. We have to reimagine what blackness is. So that we're not prisoner to a white supremacist imagination.
That's it.
That we can understand blackness on our terms. And it might change. It might shift. It might develop. It's fluid. It differs from area to area. My brother talked about what it means to be in Ethiopia versus Nigeria versus South Africa versus Compton. There's some stuff that's just black and it cuts across.
Yes, sir.
The party started at 9 o'clock, you ain't showing up at 9 o'clock. If I got a barbecue at 5 o'clock and you come at 5, I'm looking at you like, what you can get to help set up? You gonna go buy the charcoal? I ain't even shopped yet. But that doesn't mean that we're broken. The social time perspective is a quintessentially African thing. It's an African epistemology. It's an African cosmology, a way of understanding the universe. And that's cool. We can't look at us on their terms. We can be happy that Moonlight won. We can be happy that Fences gets awarded. But we can't be excited that they rewarded us for our genius. We were geniuses when they didn't give it.
Right. That's it.
And we're going to be geniuses when they don't give it. Black genius can't be quarantined to white imagination. Be yourself.
Come on with it. He's good, man. He's
He said,
good.
what do you want to be? I said, I think I want to be a professor. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, my first year at Morehouse, there's this thing called Crown Forum. Crown Forum is like an assembly. We go to King Chapel and we hear people speak. Me and my best friend, who's actually a professor now, Harlan Lewis McCoy, he and I snuck into King Chapel a little late, and we heard this guy speaking. We didn't even leave early. Back then, you signed in, it wasn't before computers, we signed in. And we could have dipped out, but we was like, this dude is dope. He's quoting Thurman. Dewey and Jefferson, Du Bois.
Yeah.
As King would say, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes. He's reaching into theology, he's reaching into philosophy. He's quoting great poets. He's drawing from Toni Morrison and Zora Neale Hurston. Then he went to Nas.
Wow.
Then he went to Biggie. Went to Tupac.
That's right.
And I said to my friend, he said to me, I don't know what that Negro was doing, but that's what I want to do. It was Michael Eric Dyson. I was like, yo, I want to be a professor. So he said, then be a professor. I said, I would love to, but I'm on the train station floor. He said, then go back to school. I said, I'd love to. I said, but time has passed. I'm old. I'm 19 now. I said, and it'll take too long. He said, how long is it going to take? I said, well, I got to go back to school, then I got to go to grad school. I'm guessing I got to write a bunch of stuff. I said, it's going to take about 10 years to get me a PhD. He looked at me and said, dummy, 10 years gonna go by anyway.
That's right.
You just ain't gonna have a PhD. And that stuck with me. I said, damn. I hadn't thought about it in that way. And for those of you who are 18 or 19, I promise you 10 years will go by. Yeah. You're gonna look up and you're just gonna be 28. Yeah. And then you're gonna be 38. And I keep going. It just happens.
Right.
You're just not gonna have the thing that you didn't do because you thought it was gonna take too long. Right. See, the problem at this moment, because, and anthropologists talk about this as time-space compression, there's a way in which the world is smaller now. You can access more of it. You can go on Facebook and talk to somebody in Japan or Palestine. The world's bigger now in the sense that you have access to so much more than we did. When I was growing up, we had pen pals. That's all. We had on Facebook and Twitter. We had pen pals. You wrote a letter to somebody in Iowa in your 3rd grade class. You sent it off in September. You get a letter back in December. I like ice cream too.
Real, dog.
2 letters later, it's you and the relationship's over. But now the world is so big and everything happens so fast.
Right.
And it produces a kind of urgency. My students email me at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. Professor Hill, I have an urgent question. 8 a.m. they write me back, why are you ignoring me? And it's not that they're simply impulsive or impatient. It's also that because of the way time and space operate, the world is faster to them. They have revolutionary technology. They have revolutionary movements. They have revolutionary resources. And at times, we must also have revolutionary patience. Revolutionary patience. Freedom is not a walk. It happens in a day or a week. Struggle is not something that we obtain, celebrate, discard. Silence is not something that we put on our cell phones. I ask that you do it now. But we must engage in understandings of freedom both on the personal and the collective level that are rooted in an obsession with patience. On the personal level, young folk, we can think about high school. Y'all are all in college now. Think about how quick high school, when you were a freshman in high school, you just say, oh my God, this thing gonna be here forever. Everybody looks so tall, everybody looks so grown, the seniors look all grown, you look all little, you walk around trying to find your lock. Before you know it, you graduate. It went like that. College goes just like that. You like it's another 4 years just goes by. Don't let time be the enemy of your dream. Right. Don't let time be the reason you don't do it. Because 4 years goes by, you just want to have your bachelor's degree. 5 or 6 years go by, you just want to have a master's degree. 8 years go by, you just want to have a PhD. I want to be a doctor, but I ain't got 8 years. In 8 years, you will just be a non-doctor being Negro. It's still 8 years, 7 years go by. You just won't be a lawyer. 9 years go by, you just won't be a surgeon. Whatever you want to do, do it. Don't let time be the enemy, because time has a funny way of popping up anyway. But you can't reduce this to the individual, because the current moment of late capitalism and neoliberalism inspires a certain kind of obsession with the self, a certain kind of solipsism, a certain kind of self-possession, a certain kind of narcissism that centers us in the equation. It's the age of the selfie. Everybody started their own show. Everybody's going live. I'm like, really? No, you go to the bathroom. It's cool. Just wash your hands, leave. But we got to also think about the collective. The patience that I'm talking about is also a struggle for freedom. You all must be able to imagine and articulate a freedom dream that is grander than the moment. You must be able to have a radical imagination that says that even though I can't see this thing happening, don't mean it can't happen. Your grandmama and them could not imagine, or your great-grandmama couldn't imagine a world without slavery. America couldn't imagine a world without slavery. They didn't struggle because they thought they would be free. They struggled because they thought that we would be free. And that the world that we would enjoy might not be one that they would ever even witness. But they knew that we were worth struggling for. People fought and died for the right to vote. No, they didn't fight for the right, die for the right to vote. They fought for freedom, but voting became one way of getting that freedom. And they might not ever access the vote. Black folk didn't get the right to vote in 1965 for real. But your grandmama and them were willing to die in the streets for a right they would never even enjoy. Black folk couldn't marry who they wanted, couldn't read in public, couldn't use a toilet, couldn't have a picture taken in front of the Washington Monument, but dogs could. They still were willing to struggle because they knew that revolutionary patience would produce something. The question becomes, in 2017, what is our revolutionary patience centered on? What's our freedom dream? Stop dreaming of warmer and fuzzier prisons. Dream of a world without prisons. Stop thinking about cops that have cameras on their badges so they can take pictures of them shooting us. Let's have a world where police are disarmed and no longer occupying force in our neighborhood. Let's start waiting for white folk to teach us. Let's build our own schools. Let's build our own institutions. Let's love ourselves enough to have revolutionary patience. You done convinced me. I'll go back. I don't know where to go, but I'm gonna go back. I said, what do people laugh at me? What do people say, I told you so? He said, they will. He said, they will. He said, well, I can show you exactly what he said. Let's just say he said, forget them. He said, forget about it. He said, but the people ain't stopping you because they think you can't do it. He said, they stopping you because they know you can. what you are. The profundity of his statement would only be made clear to me later. The world is filled with folk that want to see a fire extinguished in you before you see it, before you can witness it, before you can recognize it, before you can appreciate it. The world is filled with folk that see your black body, your brown body, and they admire it at the same time that they castigate it. A world that depends on you as the marker of what's cool, what's hip, at the same time that they demonize your culture and say it's impoverished. They admire you because we've been the ones since day one building this thing.
Come on now.
They can't have no America without you. And they recognize that, so they spend so much energy. When I say they, I mean agents of white supremacy. And let's be clear, it ain't just white folk who are agents of white supremacy. It's some Negroes walking around, as Zora said, slave ships and shoes. And white supremacy will have you thinking that you're broken. That you're not good enough. That you can only be the athlete. That you have to be prisoner to their statistics, that you have to be prisoner to a woman. The idea of white supremacy is one that makes you think that you're broken at the same time that the system itself is animated by a capitalist impulse that needs you to sustain itself. In other words, they know what you are, they tell you you're not that at the same time that they make their money and their existence off having you think that. They will call you lazy but make you a slave. They will say you dirty and you clean their houses. They will call you uncivilized and we raise their children. They know who you are. You gotta know who you are. And the day you find out who you are, you will then be free. I know y'all in a hurry. I'm gonna leave y'all alone.
Bring it.
He said to me, he said, forget them. I said, cool. I said, what if this don't work? What if I fail? What if none of this comes together? He said, look, I ain't telling you it's gonna work out. I ain't gonna lie to you, son. He said, the only thing I know for sure though is, if you don't do nothing, it definitely ain't gonna work out. What he was sharing with me, I later understood to be the essence of hope. Real hope. Not hope that's bought the soul, not hope that became campaign slogans for a neoliberal, imperial, hyper-capitalist American empire that's only gotten worse as we move from neoliberalism to neo-fascism.
Come on now.
Not that kind of hope. Not hope to make America great again when it ain't never been great. Or good. I ain't talking about that kind of hope. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the kind of hope that is anchored in spiritual and intellectual and political maturity. Hope ain't optimism. The optimism is the belief that everything's just gonna be all right. It's just gonna work out. Optimism is immature and naive. Optimism, students, is what happens when you take that test you ain't study for. You walk into class, you look at the paper, figure out where you at. Some of y'all get religious at that moment. God, just give me a C, Lord. Lord, can I just get a C? If I get a C, I won't party for like 3 days, Lord, please. That ain't hope. That's blind optimism. Hope is an understanding that the world is bad, that there are challenges, that there are enemies, that there are shortcomings and failures, that there are things that are in front of us that we can't simply ignore. Hope doesn't ignore statistics that say that we are exponentially more likely to die of gun violence, or growing in our HIV/AIDS contraction rates, or that police are more likely to shoot us in the streets than anybody else, that we are filling up prisons in record numbers that only match the numbers of slavery. It doesn't ignore that growing epidemic of mental health. It doesn't ignore the fact that we keep building first-class jails and second-class schools. It doesn't ignore any of this stuff. Hope says, despite the world being bad, I'm going to struggle. Despite the world being bad, I can be an agent of change, and even at the worst moments, when my efforts in the world don't make the world better, my struggle will stop it from being worse, and that matters for our babies. That matters for our elders. That matters for us. We must be agents of hope. Agents of hope is about 10 words. I do not have to be what I once was. See, hope is a maturity that says I might be a C student right now, but when I leave this building, my GPA don't change, but my mindset can change. I can organize and I can study and I can do better, and I can be an A student mentally, and eventually, arithmetically, I can become an A student. A hope that says that I can struggle and do something different than I'm doing right now. I haven't been as engaged as a father. I haven't been as engaged as a mother. I haven't been as engaged as a student. I haven't been as engaged as an activist. I haven't been as engaged as a creative. I haven't been as engaged as an artist. But today, I do not have to be what I once was. I can be something else. We do not have to be what we are now. We can be different. All we got is hope.
That's it.
Hope in action. Because you ain't hoping if you're sitting on your couch. You ain't hoping if you complain about an election when you ain't organized by voters. Voting ain't the only game in town, but it's part of it. We're not hoping if our children dying in the streets and we ain't doing cop watch to stop killer cops. We ain't hoping if we mad at jury selection and jury verdicts and we don't show up for jury duty. And we ain't registered to vote to be selected for jury duty. We got work to do. The world is bad. You can't be responsible enough to stop white supremacy. You can't pull your pants up high enough or speak English clearly enough to stop folks from killing you in the street or denying you job access. I ain't trying to suggest that. What I am saying is we can do both. We can do the work of justice by engaging in the struggle. Nelson Mandela was in prison for decades. And the first thing he did, he could have retired, he could have written books. He rejoined the ANC. He had a long-term vision of hope that said, I'm going to create something that ain't here yet. That's what made Malcolm Malcolm. That's what made Martin Martin, and Ella Ella, and Fannie Lou, and Sojourner, and Angela, and Asada. So I said, all right, man, you sold me. It's better than this. I'm going home. I'm going to leave. I'm going somewhere else. I said, here's the problem. I ain't got nowhere to go. My parents don't talk to me. I don't have any money. I don't have anything. I said, where do I go? He said, go home. Now, turned out I could have been going home. We grossly underestimate the love and grace and forgiveness of black mamas. But sometimes home ain't your physical address. Sometimes home is someplace else. Baldwin in Giovanni's room said, perhaps home is not a place, but rather an irrevocable condition. Home isn't just about place, it's about space. not just about the built environment, it's about the conditions around you. Many of you are looking for home. You got to find it. You're on campus and you're trying to organize. And nobody's supporting you. You got to find home. You gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, question. You're trying to find an ally, you're trying to find an organization, you're trying to find support, and you got folk telling you that what you're doing ain't African, what you're doing ain't black, what you're doing ain't human, what you're doing ain't moral. You got to find home. Home might not be at the crib, home might be an ally on college campuses. You got to find home. Some of you are struggling. All of us are struggling with mental illness. Every single one of us. We all got to find campus counseling. We all got to go to therapy. We all got to find outlets. We got to find home. Some of you have lived in 15 houses and ain't had a home yet. You got to keep looking. Sometimes your intellectual and political home won't be in your institution, it won't be in your neighborhood, it might be across Black Twitter, it might be at another campus, it might be a vendor on the street. We got to find home. And for those of us who are grown-ups who have some resources and some power, we have to keep creating home. Not just for the children that we birthed. We got to find home and create home for everybody else. We got to create home for the vulnerable. We got to create home for the refugee. Home for everybody who has been made marginal in this place. We got to find home. So I tried to find home. I drove back to Philadelphia. Car didn't make it. That had been taken from me. The incense didn't make it. They were in the car. The money didn't make it. I didn't have any. But I hitched a ride. And I made it back to Philadelphia. I slept on my mom's couch and I worked full time, 50 hours, telemarketing, selling accidental death and dismemberment insurance for JCPenney. I enrolled at Temple University. I took so many credit hours, I can't even remember. It was, I felt behind. People always ask why I write so much and work so much stuff. I always felt, ever since I dropped out, I've always felt behind. So I rushed and I worked and finished my last year in college. I decided I was gonna go to grad school. I had taken this course called The Black Woman. I wanted to meet black women. But instead, I was introduced to Black feminist thought. And it changed my life. I said, I want to read and write for a living. Maybe what dude said to me on the train station floor wasn't so crazy. Maybe I can do this. So by hook or crook, and it was a little bit of both, I got into grad school at Penn. And my second year at Penn, I was figuring it out. I said, I definitely want to do this professor thing. But I didn't have anybody to support me. I didn't have home. Then they announced that Penn had a new professor, Michael Eric Dyson. And I started TAing for him. I was a teaching assistant for 2 years. And after the first year, they stopped paying for my grad school. They said I didn't have the aptitude. And I couldn't afford no $30,000, $40,000 a year. So I went to Dyson, I said, yo, man, this is what happened. He said, yo, they crazy, they tripping. And you know he said it just like that. He said, don't worry about it, I got you. He paid for the rest of it for the next 3 years. But beyond that, he taught me that you could use a PhD to help somebody. That we could write books that our grandmamas could read. That we could do work in the world that would change people. That we didn't have to sit in an ivory tower and talk about stuff, that we could actually make the world different. We could put our hands to the plow and make work. He taught me that you could love your way through this world. And the only way we could be of any value is if we're serving others. That we can't be competing and pulling other folk down.
Right.
The only way to expand this thing is to create new people, new scholars, new mentees, new teachers, new preachers, new engineers. We shouldn't be fighting against each other. We shouldn't turn on each other. We should turn to each other and build something bigger. He did that. So I did that. And I graduated. And I taught at Temple and I taught at Columbia. And then when I turned 37, actually 36, I was 36 years old. I got a phone call out the blue. Morehouse College. The president called me and said, hey, we've been watching your work and do you have any desire to come? I said, me? It's 18 years after I dropped out at 18. I said, can I? He said, do you have any desire? I said, come where? He said, home. And that's where I am. I'm at home. But home is not just about me. It's not just about my story. It's not about translations or money or degrees. It's about who we want to be as a people. We have the opportunity right now, as I started, to leave the world better than we found it. And we're finding it in a pretty bad place. Our brothers and sisters are under attack around the world. The same folk who scream all lives matter have nothing to say when Syrian refugees are not allowed in the country, or Jewish cemeteries are being vandalized, or mosques are being burned. We're having to relitigate all the fights of the 1950s and 60s. We are literally fighting for our lives. But despite the bad news of the moment, family, and I'll leave you with this, I've never been more confident. I've never been more certain that we're going to be victorious. I've never been more uncompromising in my belief that we're going to win. It's only when it's darkest that you can see the stars. We can see the star, we can see the direction, we can see the work that needs to be done. It is up to us to do that work. I'm doing it, you're doing it. And young people in the next generation, I'm so proud of you because I'm watching you do it every single day. Every generation out of relative obscurity must determine its mission. That's the great Franz Fanon who said, every generation out of relative obscurity must determine its mission. It is then up to them to fulfill it or to betray it. The mission is clear. The struggle is clear. The only question is, are we going to fulfill it or will we betray it? I have never been more certain of what the answer is. God bless you. Free all political prisoners, free Mumia, free Palestine. I love you. God bless you.